Here we go. Here we go. Once again, it's on. Miss Kesha Eure. Wait a minute, is it Kesha or Kesha? No, hold on, don't answer that. It's gonna be Kesha, because I'm gonna call you when I see you in front of the marches and everything else. I hear people in the back, they almost a mile in the back going, Kesha, we with you. We follow you everywhere. You walking down MLK, you walking down ITB, you just leading the whole group peacefully, respectfully, the way you do things. So tonight, it's an honor to have Miss Kesha Eure, or Kesha Eure, here in that Hub Life Radio. Legends. She's smiling behind the mask. You know she's smiling. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for finally slowing down enough for my production assistant to catch you and ask you, could you come on? Did you have an hour to spare? And he was like, yeah, I guess so. Wait a minute, is Russell going to be there? Because I don't know. That cat, I don't know.
No, I said it's going to be 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, right before the holiday. I'm trying to get out of Dodge. I'm going to let all my team and my staff go early. And so I'm going to have to stick around for sundown.
Okay. That's what's up, because a lot of things happen, and you're a very important component of the community. And I'm going to talk to you about a couple things later. Let me show it. Can you see it? What side is it on?
Oh, it's on that side.
It's on this side. Okay, we're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
So tell me about the Office of Violence Prevention. Explain that to me.
So the Office of Violence Prevention was just established less than maybe 4 months ago. The mayor did an executive order to create the office. Mm-hmm. So it's, kind of in the wake of everything that's going on, right? The climate that we're in with police reform and all of these things. And so the Office of Violence Prevention is ultimately a clearinghouse for organizations to be able to access funding so that they can be able to do programming. So we're looking to do community-based public safety. Community-based public safety for community policing solutions, right? So the Office of Violence Prevention is being allocated 5% of the public safety budget. Because we are working to be able to help decrease violence, but beyond decreasing violence, having other options and alternatives to policing. And so under the Office of Violence Prevention, there's going to be a museum inside of the office. So we're going to get the first precinct of the police department over on 17th Avenue.
Where is that at?
17th Avenue, first precinct. Where it was offered up for us to be able to have an office and to do our community-based program and violence prevention programs. So we're ultimately going to house and pull together domestic violence, sexual assault, and community violence under one umbrella.
Wow.
To be able to do it so it's not so fractured. So there's going to be a museum there that's going to document some of the history of policing, stemming from the 67 rebellion, coming forward to some of the achievements that we've done in the policing. We've had some victories here in the city of Newark, and so we're going to document some of that. Also under the Violence Prevention Office is the Brick City Peace Collective, headed up by Dawn Haynes.
Who just left.
Who
will be on later.
Where she manages that office that's going to be able to coordinate and have collaboration among 16 different community-based organizations. And so many organizations are doing great work, but it's in silos, so we need to coordinate those efforts up. So that office is going to do more of the coordination for violence prevention. We also have the Shani Baraka Women's Resource Center is going to be under the Office of Violence Prevention for domestic violence, sexual assault. There's going to be an Office of Wellbeing where social workers will be going and being deployed out to respond to incidents that don't require police or don't require law enforcement to be present. So low-level offenses where a person may just need a resource. So just trying to do policing in a different manner, alternatives to policing. I have a VOCA grant. I have grants that I wrote under the health department that's going to, for men that's been victims of violence and crime, but it's going to be citywide. So I had a West Ward office, so now I have East Ward, Central Ward, South Ward, North Ward. So it's going to be in every ward with a licensed clinical social worker and outreach worker attached, where people who've been victims of violence and crime can get resources and get help that they need citywide. There's going to be an anti-racism and hate crimes unit under this office as well, where people can report if they feel like they've been victimized or feel like they've been discriminated against based on race. A hospital-based violence intervention program. So this is huge, right? Huge. But also under that, community-based organizations can use some of the money, that 5%, to be able to do some of the work they need to do. A lot of organizations don't have the infrastructure and are not as far along in capacity as other organizations, but still need to be recognized for the work that they do. Places like the Hub can access funding under the Violence Prevention Office.
Wow, that's a lot. That was almost like like she planned that speech, but not off the teleprompter. That was live. Let me just tell you. So out of everything that you said, there are a couple things that I heard. First, I used to work in a museum, which will be a museum, the First Precinct. That's where I retired from in my other life. That was like 300 some odd days ago. That was another lifetime.
Nice.
The other thing that I heard was they'll be moving the First Precinct to another location, and you guys are going to take over the whole building.
Right.
Wow. That's a monumental task.
Right.
How did they decide the First Precinct?
I'm not sure. I don't know how it was decided. We didn't demand it. It wasn't, a fight. Ultimately, the police director kind of offered it up and thought that it would be good to have that space because it's a historical space.
Exactly. Now, you actually do know why they picked it, because in 1967, something happened.
The 67 rebellion.
The 67 rebellion started right there.
Okay.
So that's how they came up upon that particular building. But all of the precincts are actually historical sites. That's why they can't tear them down.
Oh, good. That's good information.
You guys have, listen, you have, how do I say this? You have found a niche that there are a lot of social workers who just fit into a little space and a little cubby hole, and they do what they do and they leave.
Right.
You've taken it and amplified it, and you brought so many people up under your wings. It looks like it's a lot of weight that you carry.
I mean, this is the first time, right? So it certainly is a lot of weight. When I first came to the city, I was doing a juvenile repeat offender program where we were helping, people who were robbery
victims.
Not the victims, the perpetrators.
Okay. All right.
We was helping the perpetrators.
Suspects is what we call them.
Suspects. I apologize. Suspects. We were helping them because we realized that if you intervene with them, right, you can kind of intervene in the cycle. And so I came to the city and I started doing that work, and then I started doing the West Ward Victims Outreach Program, which is funded by the Department of Justice. It was 5 years, funded $1.6 million. And then went to the Shani Baraka Center. Now the Office of Violence Prevention has been my journey, here in the city. But the Shani Baraka Center has a grief counselor, job developer, substance abuse counselor, mental health counselors, special victim social workers. We have a LGBTQ room and space for LGBTQ community. We offer plenty of resources. We offer all sorts of, we have a sexual assault advocate as well. And so on one side of the space is social services, but on your other side, you have the special victims of the police department. So you have public safety and public health ultimately working together under one roof. And that's really what we want to do. We want to start doing community-based public safety, community-based mental health and public health in a way that it looks like us. Right, we want people who look like me and you, people who are relatable, people that people trust and know in the community, that's viable, right? That's respectable, that can really get things done and move some stuff along. So that's what we're moving towards: community-based, more community-based, public safety, public health, people that look like us that can really do the work. Law enforcement has a place, but they don't have all the space and all the place. They're not the be-all, end-all. And just like they're first responders, we're first responders too.
Absolutely. What's the address of the Shani Baraka Center?
Shani Baraka Center is at 300 Clinton Avenue, right in the heart of the city, right near Stratford and Johnson.
Stop right there. Hold on. So, for those of you who don't know, the Shani Baraka Center, which actually sat on an open lot for years, was put together and built, brand new facility. It is literally at one point 100 feet from the deadliest 600 feet in the city of Newark, without a doubt. So the city has made strides because, let me tell you something, if you wasn't from Stratford, you didn't go on Stratford. I didn't care if you was from the bricks. You just had to be from Stratford to be there.
Right.
So now the city has leapt forward into the 21st century with the facility, a brand new, beautiful facility. But let me tell you, when you talk about Stratford, that place is legendary. You guys have a facility there, working partnerships. Who would have thought 12, 13 years ago that you would have all of that right there next to Stratford?
Right.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just had to put that part out there.
But it's important, right? Because people say, oh, all of the great buildings and all of the great services are downtown Newark. So we're looking to start to build and put, resources in the heart of the community where people are. Mm-hmm. And so the Shani Center is monumental, and it's, I would certainly say that it's symbolic, right? It's symbolic of the work that we're trying to do, but Shani was from the city, mm-hmm. right? Shani is the mayor's sister who was shot and killed as a result of domestic violence. And so really, really doing things in a way that makes sense.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, the Office of Violence Prevention, was it one big collaboration where you guys all went together and you went to 920 Broad Street, second floor, room 200, in the back conference room, or was it a series of events that put it together and then you went on and found the funding for it?
For the Office of Violence Prevention?
Yes.
Nope. It was, I would say, in the vacuum, ultimately. Mm-hmm. The mayor. It was the mayor's vision. I'm not sure who he went in the room with, or what table. I wasn't at that table.
What? Not you.
But I was at the table. I was in the streets, right, with him years ago, where we talked about as activists, right, under North Anti-Violence Coalition, where we were out in the streets fighting against violence for years. And some of the surveys that we did and some of the demands that we had. The Violence Prevention Office was one of those things that actually was Bashir years ago that said we need a Violence Prevention Office, right? And so to see it come to pass, is amazing. There wasn't a fight or a protest for it, right? The mayor knew, and he knew the vision, and he just signed an executive order and said, "This is what we're going to do."
It's probably a little bit more than that, because I could go up to the mayor and say, go ahead and sign me an executive order for a check. He just won't do it. It had to be, listen, we're going to have Ms. Kesha Eure run this because we know what she's capable of, how she can organize. And I've seen you organize, even though you didn't realize I was way in the back looking. We had to put somebody there responsible, because unfortunately everybody will say they can do certain things, and then it just falls by the wayside. And as I see this, it's growing stronger and stronger. You've branched out. I want to say that you were probably, if you weren't in the top 2 of the people that he had in his mind to do this, you were probably number 1. And I say that because when I want to say July 12th, there was not the parade, the march for the anniversary of the Newark Rebellion, as you say.
Right.
I was actually looking for you for something else, and people's like, no, you can't do that. You have to go see Miss Eure. So I said, yeah, I've been looking for Miss Eure all day, and every time I will go to a location, somebody would go, no, she just left 5 minutes ago. I didn't catch up to you till I got till you was at Springfield Avenue and 15th Avenue, right there, Rebellion Park, and you was like, okay, I got 5 minutes for you. That's all I got. And you was going from, it was the march that day. There was also a video being shot here, which was Letter to 45. And you was like, and I got 2 other things. Matter of fact, to go back even further, there was a hugs for whatever.
Hugs for healing.
Hugs for healing going on from that Hub Life,
Mm-hmm.
and a collaboration that you helped put together along with Mr. Hub. He pays me to say that, by the way.
Good.
Al Tariq Best. He's like, no, Keish gonna make sure that happens. She got everything. She didn't organize. So that's why I say with the Office of Violence Prevention, you had a history of putting stuff together the right way. Because, like I said, sometimes people will claim that they can do X, Y, and Z, and it just falls by the wayside. So that's a testament to the good work that you've actually put into the city of Newark, and through your work being a licensed clinical social worker, which is amazing.
Right.
And we have a couple of them here walking around. I think Regina's walking around and Denise is here. That's just crazy. So at one point, because I know the mayor or somebody that works under him had to reach out to you and say, well, we think that, was it put to you like, well, we have this and we would like for you to step into the batter's box, up to the plate? Or was it like, well, we'll interview and then see? Because I kind of know the answer, but I want to hear what you say.
So it really happened a little bit more awkwardly. We were at a COVID testing site, and I was talking to the mayor down in, I believe he was in Hyatt Court.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying, I'm about to put together and do this, Office of Violence Prevention. And I said to him, I'm already doing the Office of Violence Prevention. I said, I already have my West Ward team. I just wrote 5 more grants. We just expanded into all wards of the city. I said, I have the Shani Baraka Center for Domestic Violence, Sexual Assault, and Community Violence. I'm already doing it. And I'm like, you about to hijack my work? Right? So it was kind of like a conversation we had like that. And he basically said yes. Right? But not knowing the vision, not knowing that he was going to tap me to be the person to run the office. And I believe, it was put to, maybe city council folks or, other folks in City Hall to say, well, what do y'all think? Who would be the best person? And, I think that my name came up and most people was like, I think that she's the best person. And some people might have felt like, oh, it's too much. She can't handle it. Let's hire, somebody else. Let's go and hire, outside of. But because we are really looking to empower Newarkers, we're really trying to, make sure that people get opportunities first, right? And so it would have been a mistake, right, to pass me by. But it didn't happen, the way that it wasn't a huge conversation. It was like, okay, this is in your lap now, and you got to take the ball and run with it and make something happen. So that's pretty much the way it happened.
So what I'm hearing is, and you're very modest. I got to say that about you. Well, what I'm hearing is he was trying to take your temperature, just like you do at the COVID testing site. He was making sure that, it was, and he knew what you was doing. He probably already had a dossier of all your strategies and everything that you put together, because you're very, when it comes to writing, your writing is exquisite. And he was like, well, let me see what her temperature is on this. And I'm thinking it wasn't a spur of the moment. It was something that he had built up. And he said, listen, there's only one person. Now, I'm sure there's other people out here that could have done it, because I know other people, but I think that at the time and the place, everything fell in together. It was like a jigsaw puzzle. Everything fit together nicely.
Right.
And sometimes when you're dealing with the city or other entities, you have to make sure everything is right.
Right.
Because you can come up on opposition, and it's like it throws a monkey wrench in the whole thing. So they kind of knew what they was doing, but you're so classy and so unassuming that she was like, well, I'll see what I can do, but I'm already doing the work, and he knew that. Like I said, it's a testament to all the good work you've done in the streets and in the office and everywhere you go. So here at 135 Prince Street, that Hub Life Radio, Legends with Russell Thomas. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Peace. Okay, what's in the next? What's hot? Oh my goodness, we're live here, 135 Prince Street, Hub Life Radio with Ms. Lakeisha Eure. Oh, like I said, it's Ms. Kesha Eure, who's the director of the Office of Violence Prevention here in the city of Newark. And we're trying to work on her getting a TV show where she could talk clinical social work and do what she do. But right now, this is what we're going to do. Here at 135 Prince Street, Arts and Therapy at that Hub Life Radio. We're going to view the video, A Letter to 45, and then we're going to talk about that a little bit. So here it is, A Letter to 45.
There's a limit to a man's patience, and everyone knows that God, Christ, heaven, everyone knows that what we're asking is not $1 million.
Inner city.
What we're asking for is humanity.
To the African American people that have to suffer in these inner cities, what do you have to lose? I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it.
Youngest is coming and interrupting all. We got heads shaking already, we just getting warm.
Them hub stars, they can sing this, you bound to know me. Y'all gon' pay listens with your favorites like you switch emojis.
I may not be the one to change the world, but I'll be the one to spark the minds of boys and girls from love.
Little ones that's underserved and live in poverty. I wanna change the nightmares into beautiful dreams.
We are the Martin Luther Kings and Michelle Obamas. But yet let's talk about the future, Corey and Kamala.
Our next quota should quote us and simply stay focused. We can change the world if you let us. Hope you get to notice.
Life would be so crazy. As a child, my eyes would see so much inequality. I never knew. Life would be so crazy. Where is the love that used to be? All life matters, just like me. So many tears are falling from my eyes. And I don't want to see no more my babies die. Who do we call to protect us from it all? Do we shut up or do we fight? Or do we march on for it? So many tears are falling from my eyes. And I don't want to see no more my babies die. Who do we call to protect us from it all? Do we strap up or do we fight? Or do we march on for it?
They say the children are the future, only if they don't shoot ya. My family's being killed for real, don't wanna lose ya. Can't change who we are, nor should we even try to. Since birth we've been oppressed for the cuts, and we've been lied to. Laws being made to keep us slave to your system. We resist with the wisdom, historically is meant to prison. So what's a man to do when it's back against the wall? I tell my children, if you really stand up and stand tall for Trayvon, Sandra, Emmett, for sure. The youth can make a difference, so we banging at your door. When you learn to love yourself, it is the greatest love of all. You're the leader of a free heart, and your focus on the war. It's not a game, it's a shame. The war is steady iron. That's on the role model I needed when I was younger. I would die for us, and injustice for one, and for injustice for all. 45 could be the reason why America will fall.
Life would be so crazy. As a child, my eyes would see so much inequality. I never knew. Life would be so crazy. Where is the love that used to be? All life matters is nothing. Should we strap up? Should we fight? Should we march on? 45.
Here we go. Oh man, letter to 45. What did you think about that, Miss Eure? Did you think anything special about it, or is that just something else you're used to seeing in this community?
I mean, for those of us who are, activists and who've been on the front lines for a long time, yeah, you're used to seeing that. But I'm excited that they decided to, do a video and to record it and to show, because imagery is important. So many of our people know what's going on, but until they see it, is when they decide they want to do something about it, or it hits different when you see it. So I think the video, the imagery, seeing it, hearing the music, it touches you in a different place, in a different way. And to write a letter to 45 or to write a song to 45, I think that it's ballsy. And I think that it was a great way to get the attention, to get a political message across, and to see so many young people in the video, right? To show that young people have a voice, they understand what's going on. And we know there's always been young people to carry missions, to, get things passed, to carry movements. So I was, certainly excited and very proud of Al Tariq shooting this video, putting young people at the forefront, seeing the people in the video that we know are doing the work, to see Larry Ham, so Dawn, Bob Zaid, different people who we know do this work in real life. So the video is real life, right? And so many people don't understand and see that is right now, that these things are happening right now, been happening. But when it lands on your doorstep, it's just a little bit different. When you see the Breonna Taylors, when you see George Floyd, when you see like all of the people that's been, killed, victimized, and when you see the response from our government, right? And it's always business as usual, so it seems. That you never seem to get the favorable outcomes that you're looking for. You never seem to get the outrage from, your politicians that you look for. And so there's so many pieces, to this puzzle, but the bottom line is that we got to continue to create. We got to continue to agitate. We got to continue to protest and rally.
Peacefully.
Continue to rally, continue to have your voices heard. And protest is not just about, your voice in that way, right? It's about writing campaigns. It's about policy changes. It's about, different things. So music is the vehicle that we use in here in this letter to 45. But all of those people that's in the video that you see have used other methods and other tactics to get their voices heard.
You're so smooth. Have you ever done spoken word?
I have not.
Oh, that's gonna be next thing on the contract. We're gonna put that in there for you. Now, let me tell you how what you said was so right on point. I want to say it was the first show. It might have been the second show we were in here. There was a meeting going on next door. There was a group in here. I don't want to really name the group. There was a shooting here in the city of Newark. We had just finished. I was walking out, and they were going to the shooting, to the homicide. The next day, I happened to know a couple people in the group, and they were like, as an officer, how do you get those images out of your head? And I was like, listen, you see so much of it. It does become business as usual. Doesn't make it right. But you become numb to it.
Right.
Desensitized is probably the word.
It is.
When I was teaching in some of the schools, there was a little program called the Great Program. I used to ask the kids, especially in elementary, how How many of you guys know what a gunshot sounds like? A stolen car screech, police chase, or gunshots? Every kid in those classes would raise their hand.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in some of the suburban communities, most of those kids, the only thing they knew was fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids become so desensitized. So that night, when everything was going on and it was a homicide, and I was talking to the person, they was like, listen, I came back the next week. It's like the image is still fresh in my head. And I was like, listen, you have to talk. You have to talk to somebody about that, because this stuff will wear you down. So tell me, how do you deal with that? Because I know you go to a lot of scenes.
I do. I've been to a lot of scenes. I've had scenes at my own doorstep, right? And see people shot, killed, see people, die at the hands of whomever, or natural causes.
Yeah.
And it's tough. Like you said, you become desensitized, but you find a way. For me, right? For whatever reason, I have some sort of insulation, where I'm able to decompartmentalize, and be in business mode. Like, all right, it's time to organize. Okay, you go to the scene, you go to the hospital, you do crowd control, you call, this person, you call that person. So I go straight into organizing mode, in which case I'm able to not see, what's happening emotionally. And so that's a protection. It's a defense mechanism, right? And the body protects itself all the time. So you find what helps you to suppress. You find what helps you to not have the memories, the flashbacks, and be emotional about it. So I don't know if it's a skill based on experience or just being desensitized and being able to decompartmentalize. I'm able to just go into a mode where it doesn't affect me the same way as it used to. Just recently, I was away, and someone was killed right outside my hotel room.
Oh, wow.
And they were stabbed to death. And it took them 9 hours to pick up the body. And I went straight into work. I was supposed to be on vacation, if you will, but I went straight into mode of, went to the police officer. Hi, my name is Kesha Eure. Is there anyone here at the scene who needs support or help that I can assist? Is there any way that I can assist here at the scene? And can you please tell me your process of why it's taking so long for the medical examiners to come and pick up the body?
Wow. On vacation.
On vacation, right?
You always working. I'm surprised you went to vacation. But God put you there for a reason. I'm surprised wherever you were at, you weren't you didn't meet somebody where you said, listen, this is what I do here in the city of Newark. If you need some help and guidance in doing this same thing here, same procedures, same protocols, I'll be willing to help.
Right.
Did it come to that, or?
I did. But then they just told me that they're the police department. It's their scene. They don't use a prosecutor's office, and so they have to do their investigation before they call in the medical examiners, and then after that, but what I witnessed them do was right at the scene. I witnessed them take the clothes off the person, take pictures right at the scene, and I was mortified.
Did they have the curtains up?
No curtains.
There was
no curtains. There were no curtains. They did have a tarp over, but there were no curtains, and they'd taken the pictures. I saw them flip it on the back, flip them on the front, take the pictures, and then, take them away. And I was like mortified. And I was like, okay. But you see things different times. It affects you differently. But you never get used to it. You can never get used to seeing death. You can never get used to seeing people victimized, shot, stabbed, robbed, carjacked, whatever happens, suicide. But your ultimate goal, and my ultimate goal and mission, is to make it easier for whoever it is that needs to be, supported in the moment, and to make sure that they don't go through it by themselves.
And then you took it a little further by providing a mechanism for somebody to deal with it. I think that's key. Is that part of your trauma-informed city? Oh,
absolutely. Newark is a trauma-informed city, where we are, training is happening in terms of being trauma-informed on all levels, with law enforcement, with the hospitals, the schools, city government. So at every level, people are now being trained on being trauma-informed. And being trauma-informed is just you not causing any more harm, right? Learning to do no more harm, learning to identify when something has happened to someone versus saying what is wrong with that person, right? It's a different lens. You're looking at it from a different place. You're not blaming the victim. You're not, shaming victims, so it's really a different lens to look at situations from where you don't cause additional harm.
Which could be a detriment to causing, making a problem become even more immense or intense, because you go to so many scenes, you see how so many ways that scene can go wrong if a family member comes up, and you understand you have to show, as a police officer, you have to show compassion and empathy, but you still have a job to do. But when it's your loved one laying there, person's not thinking about it, they're just thinking about what just happened and trying to make sure that the shock of it all. And that's why I asked you, I know you've been to a lot of scenes, and I asked you, how did you deal with it? Because after a while, it becomes a weight. And I'm sure whether it's through your TV show, you'll be the next Ilana Van Zandt or whatever it is that they do, Fix My Life, right out here on the studio, here at 135 Queen Street. We're not talking about legends, but we're talking about, setting you up with something where you can help other people deal with it.
Right.
Because a lot of people won't go to seek help, especially in the African American community. So I think that's very important. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go on a small break. The lights in here is hot. We're going to take it down real quick, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. And we're back here at 135 Prince Street, that Hub Life Radio with Miss Lakeisha Eure. No. Kesha Eure, like the dude in the back said. That's Miss Kesha Eure leading the march in the protest gracefully. We don't need nobody tearing up, especially our city. One thing you said, I'm going to add a little something to it. When we say defund the police, we do not mean disband or disassemble. We mean take certain funds and reallocate it to something else that might help. A lot of times when I was in patrol, we would be going to jobs that really didn't need the police. And it's important that if you could take some of the load off and give it to somebody else, a non-violent situation, then that lightens the load for the police department. So I just want to give a shout out to all of the first responders working in this troubled time. I know times are hard and you're doing the best you can. And in the city of Newark, the first responders have been hit extremely hard, but they still keep doing their job. So all the nurses at University and Beth Israel and all the other hospitals in the area, shout out and kudos. I know it's hard, but we will get through this. Once again, we're back here with Miss Lakeisha Eure. Kesha Eure for the people in the back. So elegant, so eloquent. She's doing what she does. When you said that you went to in the schools to help with troubled youth, was it just regular schools or was it some of the special schools? Because Newark has special schools as well.
So I would say more so just regular Newark public schools, the high schools, some of the elementary schools. And we're looking to do, under the Office of Violence Prevention, we will be doing early intervention work and early intervention services because we know that we need to grab them earlier versus once things have happened. So we are putting together programming in the high schools. We're looking to start to work with University High School, Shabazz, Weequahic, and Westside. And we're going to be working with some of the disengaged youth. Right, and so we also understand that when we're looking at juveniles, there are a lot of juvenile offenders, and we need to be able to, start to work with them and their families. But we also want to work with the students that we start to identify as being disengaged, at risk, is what they say, right? And so if we intervene earlier, then we have a better chance and a better shot at being able to prevent things on the other end.
Being proactive is always the way to go.
Right.
But you guys don't go into the juvenile detention facility?
I don't. The social workers that I have at the Shani Baraka Center, 2 of them were going into the juvenile center. So we may have to coordinate that back up, but they were going 2 to 3 days out the week. So I did have social workers in the detention center for youth.
Oh, wow. So you guys are covering everything. And I guess the next thing would be to get you into some of the schools that are at risk,
right? Because
we have, I think, 2 or 3 of them. In the right here in the Central Ward or the First Precinct, you had 2 of them, I believe, where you had kids that were either pre-sentence or post-sentence going to get into high school. So that might be something else that you could look into. I actually have a couple of partners. One actually put up a program for, if you can believe it, for carjacking. He actually had a program that he tried to give to the community, different elements of the community, to try to set that up. So maybe you can talk to him about that as well.
Oh, that'd be good. That's part of being proactive, right? So we can get some more proactivity happening, so we can prevent more things, then we won't have to be reactionary on the other end. So really trying to work on not being as reactionary.
Exactly. So with Community Policing Solutions as your manager, and moving forward, her eyes just got big. He's like, no, he didn't say that again. But with Community Policing Solutions, I don't know if you know, I used to teach the GREAT program, which was Gang Resistance Education and Training, which was just about making good choices. We taught elementary and middle school. Elementary was 6 weeks. Middle school was 14 weeks, I believe it was.
Okay.
And I taught all throughout the city. So now, it's funny, I can be in ShopRite or wherever I'm at, and if somebody come up to me that I taught maybe 10, 12 years ago, they go, oh, Detective Thomas. I remember what GREAT stand for, and they would come and tell me.
Okay.
So now you're going to see the product of that, because with all the stuff you do, and I know people have come up to you and say, you changed my life by doing X, Y, and Z, for speaking up for me, for being an advocate.
Right.
Did you know at a young age that you wanted to be an advocate?
No, at a young age, I wanted to be a mortician. That's what I wanted to do with my life.
Wow. That's deep.
And I
6 feet at least.
I wanted to be a mortician because I knew that I would always have a job. and I wanted to be in a professional career that I can hand down to my family. And so that was my goal, and that's what I wanted to do. But when I went to college, life happens differently. You had to have 2 years of college, and then you had to go to mortuary school after that. So my first year of college, I went to Ramapo. So my first year of college, at the end of my first year, my dad passed away. And then 8 months later, at the end of my second year, my mom passed away.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And so life, was different. So I didn't want to change schools and do different things. I had to leave school for a little while. I had to take a semester off, come home and work and figure some stuff out. But then you do those little tests to say what you're good at. And based on what you're good at, then it tells you what profession you should go into. So I said, if I'm going to do 2 years in social sciences, then I might as well do 4 and get a degree. And so social work ended up being where I landed, but not knowing that I wanted to do, if I wanted to do clinical social work, community organizing, clinical work, like not knowing what I wanted to do. And so social work just ended up being, it's who I am, it's what I represent. But I didn't want to be a social worker growing up. I wanted to be a mortician. And so ironically, when I'm, at funerals and different things, I find myself still trying to direct funerals and be a funeral director. But
it's not funny, but it's funny.
I just think that I'm just a natural organizer. I just like to organize anything. So
when you're organizing your TV show in the studio back there, we're gonna get you you don't even need you're so good, you don't even need a teleprompter or anything. You can just write your own questions because you're so thorough with your line of questioning that it won't take us long. We can run 2 hours and I can get at least a check and a half out of that. The 5%.
The 5%.
The 5%.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
5% is a good percent.
Listen, we do what we can do when you're on a fixed income, such as myself. I want to commend you on you were busy. You were busy. I would say good 22 hours out the day. No matter what, Miss Eure is either leading the group, organizing the group, or putting stuff together for a group to organize, to meet, so that's part of the organizational skills. What other skills did you find that you had other than writing? Because we know you write grants, and that's an exhaustive process. How did you get good at writing? How did you learn how to write the grants so well? Because not everybody can do it.
So I guess the gift that I have is that I have the narrative, right? So I'm able to, I write with teams of people because you need someone who can do the research part to give you the data and the parts that it asks for. But when they ask, well, what are you going to do and how you're going to do it? Just for me, I'm able to do that because I'm in this work. So when we're writing for violence prevention programs and they're saying you need to do this and you need to do that, I can tell you theory versus practice. I can tell you this looks great on paper, but logistically you're not going to be able to roll it out. And in order to roll it out, you need to be able to do this and this. So when I first came to the city, we was trying to get our strategic plan approved and it kept getting denied by the Department of Justice, and I didn't understand why. And it was because we was writing from a crime reduction strategy place, and that's not what they wanted. They wanted something from a victim-centered place. So I know victim-centered work all day long, so I was able to give them that all day. So you just got to know the place of where you need to be writing from. And when you have experience in that space and place, it just becomes natural and easier.
Wow. It's just amazing. It's a talent. And obviously, how long have you been doing this actually?
Doing what?
Social work. And I know you're only 21, but I don't think 3 years is an appropriate answer. So approximately.
I would say we're going to say at least 15 years, right?
Wow.
I'm going to go with 15 years. I've done life skills. I was a life skills instructor. I've done community engagement. I worked for so many entities. I worked for shelter programs, young people, halfway houses, in other cities.
Okay.
In Orange and Jersey City, I supervised the halfway house for young boy offenders. I've done just the gamut of works. Substance abuse. I was a substance abuse counselor for young boys who were mandated by the courts. I've done social welfare work. So just like the gamut. So I think just based on working in different places, working 2 and 3 jobs, because I'll add in my personal experience. After your mom and your dad pass away, it's showtime, right? You got to work. You got to figure this thing out. There's no home to go back to, right? Family and friends not going to take care of you, but they, would have if I needed them to. But now I needed to work any and every job that I could. I worked at NJ Pack as an usher, right? I worked, anywhere that I could. Welcome to McDonald's. How can I help you? So, just experience and being a people's person and learning people and learning behavior has just been a gift. Like I'm really good at engaging people. I'm really good at working with people. I'm really good at helping people make changes in their lives. But ultimately, it's about showing up. And I think the thing that I do best is show up for people. And after you show up, then you figure out what to do, but you got to at least be there.
So at least a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I might be having my timeline a little messed up. You were in Plainfield or Patterson. Somebody opened up a center.
Patterson.
It was Patterson. And they were all fixated on, because you said you didn't mean to speak too long, and you went and you broke it down for them. What exactly was that? Do you remember?
It's Patterson Healing Collective.
Okay.
So Patterson just opened up their violence prevention program, hospital-based violence prevention program. And so they have outreach workers and people working to help people to change their lives. So they work with people between the ages of 12 and 40. Shooting victims or stab victims. That's the population. So they help them to they help relocate them, help them get jobs, help them not to be a part of the cycle of violence. And so I went there, I spoke to the workers, the outreach workers, but just giving them my experience based on what this work takes, right? Because this is a personal work. And this work they can't pay you enough to do it, right? So being a first responder, you're putting your life on the line every day, all day. And it's a thankless work. And so really trying, I was talking to them and empowering them to let them know that I know what this is. And you have people's lives in your hand, and you're responsible for people's lives, and you got to show up a certain way. And as I'm talking to them, I was talking to myself, because I need to encourage myself a lot of days, and sharing my personal experience to let them know that I know what it's like to be on the other side of the yellow tape when, someone gets shot, killed, or something happens to them, and you're there by yourself. I know what it's like for law enforcement to shun you away and push you away and not be empathetic and not be sympathetic and wishing that someone was there to advocate for me. So I know what it's like to be in a hospital and they come to tell you your loved one is not going to make it and you're there by yourself. And I vowed that, as long as I could help it, that people won't be by themselves in that process. Wow. And being committed to the work, in that kind of way, and doing the work for free for a long time under the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, right? We've done this work for free. We've stood up. We've been out there, rain, sleet, snow, sunshine, fighting against violence and putting a voice to violence won't be tolerated here. We won't have business as usual, right? And, doing that for 155 weeks in a row. Straight. Right? And so I'm sure we've done it longer, but we didn't start counting. But just being committed and dedicated to a cause. And this work is not for everyone. And so in going to Patterson and talking to them, they have the peacekeepers who go in the street and shut down traffic and talk to the people like we do for Newark Anti-Violence Coalition. But now they've also, been able to make some movement to get some funding to do it more, in a more professional way, right? We're professionalizing this work. Violence prevention work, outreach work being professionalized, frontline workers being recognized and respected as frontline workers and first responders. And so we're professionalizing the work. Wow.
So I know you talked about it earlier about having the social workers doing certain jobs. Are you going to have them responding or have them in the precincts? Is that the plan, or has it actually been put out yet?
We're trying to figure it out, right? Because there's, some other cities who had social workers inside the precincts and have now decided to take them out because of, whatever that looks like. Social workers, for the most part, historically have been stigmatized, right? Social workers are the people who take your children away. Social workers are the people that's always in your business, right? So people don't always like and love social workers. So it just depends, right, on where you are. And so they're looking to probably even change the name if they're going to be associated with law enforcement, just so that they're not seen as biased. They can't be, quote unquote, police social workers. because it's stigma attached to that. So they can be in the violence prevention office and just be deployed out to the precincts. But I see it the other way too. There was an incident where someone, it wasn't in Newark, but it was another precinct where a young man shot himself inside of the precinct. And he kept saying, I need help. He was in crisis. And I feel like if there was a social worker there, they could have intervened to let them know this person needs to go to the hospital. And most people come to the precincts and to police departments when they're in trouble and in crisis. And if someone can be there to kind of help with that divide and help support the person right then and there at the precinct, I think we can de-escalate a lot of situations a little bit differently, where a person is not sitting there for hours and hours and hours, and they might just only need a resource, or they might just need somebody to talk to. So if the social worker is there, or a navigator, or a peer navigator, or anybody, a peer support person, whatever we want to call them, can just be there, then I think that it would be helpful. And it's not harmful.
So let me give it to you from the other perspective. What about just the hotline? Maybe somewhere else, it could be in a precinct somewhere where you never see them. They can call up, let's say you can get your resource from the person on the hotline. Because sometimes in the police department, it's not always the best place to be, and it's a lot of violence. And I mean, you have people coming in that mean harm too as well, because that's the focus of their rage. So you can have them in the police. See, I don't think, me personally, unless it's 100% guaranteed that this is a non-violent situation, I think that that certain social workers will be put in harm's way, because it doesn't take long for a situation or a job to go bad.
Right.
And unfortunately, police officers are watching everything around.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's something else that's why I said maybe have a hotline or something where you could talk to a person directly. That might be the better way. Because I know it was talked about having people respond out of the precinct to different jobs, but there's a lot more to it. It's just not cut and dry. Like you said, there's book smarts, and then there's real world situations. And you have to, and then all you need is for a social worker to get hurt or get in the middle of something, and they be like, wow, why was the social worker in that type of predicament?
Right.
So you got to be careful.
Right.
But I'm sure you guys will work that out.
Yeah, and you weigh it on both sides. You weigh it on both sides. I've been at scenes. I've intervened in scenes. I've talked to officers. Hey, let me handle it from here. And I've been able to intervene and de-escalate, right? Because that's what we're trying to do. We're really just there to de-escalate a situation, so it doesn't go bad. We're there to assess, right, where we can tell if a person has substance abuse issues, if the person have mental health issues, or if the person have quality of life issues, right? And we could kind of help judge situations where they're not all criminal, right? So, I think that it can be collaborative, but we just have to assess and create protocol and policy.
Along with Community Policing Solutions, here we have the lovely Miss Kesha Eure. No, bump that. Kesha Eure from the guy in the back. It's blank here, but there's going to be a banner that says Legends, and we want you to come back and sign the banner. We got to wait for Mr. Hub to put it up there. We want to come back and sign it. I'd like to have you back here as well. I know you're extremely busy, and hopefully next time I won't have to go through your secretary assistant, to go to your other assistant, to go to the person who screens your calls, to finally get you through an email from somebody else. But I would love to have you back here. We can talk more about this collaboration and the wonderful stuff you're doing, because you're an amazing person and you're taking everything you do to the next level. You found your niche. We talked about this, and you've elevated. Now I can see you going national or nationwide, especially when you fix your life out here in the studio, and with me being your manager, getting my 5%. And Black Power. The sky's the limit. The sky's the limit on what you can do. I want to thank you for being here and taking the time. I know you're tired. It's the day before. Are you cooking tomorrow?
I am not.
Oh, she said that quick, Adrian. Did you hear that? Oh my goodness.
I am not cooking for tomorrow.
Okay, all right. I don't want no problems. I want to thank you for being here. You got to promise to come back and sign the banner, Legends. And it's going to be up here because there's going to be other radio shows in here.
Right.
And but we want you to have a TV show. out there. Now you can have a radio show. I don't care, but this is my office here. I'm just letting you know that. She's just shaking her head. Thank you so much for coming, Miss Lakeisha Eure.
Thank you so much for having me on the Legend Show. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure.
Community Policing Solutions.
Community Policing Solutions, along with Miss Lakeisha. I'm gonna get her to write me a grant, Adrian, and we're gonna get paid off that grant.
Don't put that out there, please. Those who are listening in the audience, please do not listen to him. I write grants when I have to and need to, in order to secure money for us to be able to do this work. We need resources. I can help steer you in the right direction for those people. You know, I do know other grant writers, but we ultimately need to be getting resources together. So we need to collaborate and partner.
She said that's so politically correct. And I'm gonna partner you up with KK Communications, another grant writer, and you'll be amazed at the stuff that goes on. I believe she'll be in here in about 3 weeks. I want to thank you once again for coming.
Thank you for having me. Everyone have a blessed and safe holiday, if you will, for those who celebrate. For those of us who do not, have a happy and safe weekend. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sweetheart. Have a good one. Bye.